Welcome to Travels with Phil. I'm Phil Constantine, and we are in New York City for this episode and looking at some of the highlights of New York, or just some of the ones that I came across. It is a beautiful town, an interesting town, and a wide variety of places. This is what it looks like early in the morning during the winter time when there is snow on the ground and obviously on the tops of the buildings. They do keep the streets fairly clean out there because this is a big city, and so things are happening 24 hours a day there and lots of business. But it is pretty even on the not so pretty sections of town. Not that this isn't nice, but it's not what you necessarily call pretty. So looking around, well, a lot of variety, and that's what I'm going to be showing you. So starting off here, we're going to be looking at the United Nations building coming in toward the Chrysler building to your left. And just one of the many views out there. It's amazing what you can do with some camera work. And this is Grand Central right there, and this is the roof or ceiling in it. And a look at a lot of bridges, starting off with the Brooklyn Bridge. This is what it looked like just after it was finished. And you'll be able to see it now with some of my video. I just love the artwork, even though it's artistic. It wasn't intended to be necessarily art. But the symmetry, the lines, the angles, the guy wires here, it's more than just structural. It is a monument to engineering, and it has been around since around 1880s, completed that is. And this here, you can see the traffic. You can stand up over it and look down at the vehicles. They also run trains through there, so all kinds of transport. The Williamsburg Bridge, again, lots and lots of bridges in New York City. You got the East River, the Hudson River, other spots out there as well. Verrazano Bridge going across the bay at the end. And just on and on with the various ones. The Manhattan Bridge is next to the Brooklyn Bridge, which is over on the left. Looking at it from overhead here. Nice work with the drone videos going over. And again, it's just the structures can be very nice looking, even if you aren't into engineering or the ways of bridges. The next one here coming up is the Queensboro Bridge. And a little bit of time-lapse photography. See the skyline behind it. I do like the city at night as well, all the various lights, even which may or may not necessarily be designed to be pretty as well. And this is the George Washington Bridge, or the GW Bridge, as the locals tend to call it there. This is more toward further north, connecting to Manhattan. And moving around to some other spots out here, various other bridges in different parts of town. The Robert Kennedy Bridge. Some of these have more than one name. The Verrazano Bridge. You can see some of the falcons they have, peregrine falcons that live on the bridge itself. No, that's not the Lincoln Tunnel. This is the Lincoln Tunnel. Alrighty, and you can see it coming through, and that's where I came in through New Jersey. It was just too expensive to stay in New York, so I stayed in New Jersey. And the Hudson River Park. Moving along here and looking down toward the tip of Manhattan, and you can see the One World Trade Center, the new building there at the top. That's a big building. Times Square. And yes, sometimes I will say Times Square, but I've been told it's Time Square. And of course, you get different stories from different people. George M. Cohan statue right there. There are a lot of Broadway shows in the immediate vicinity here. Lots of glamour, lots of glitz, lots of sparkling lights, and I was really impressed by how just big and bright everything was there. The amazing advertising, some of it just just trivial stuff, but it was still interesting. All the kind of stuff they did and how big it was.
Travels with Phil continues in Times Square. Man, those buildings are big. Times like that, times like now that I wish I didn't have this metal plate in my neck. Makes it hard to bend back. They are doing lots and lots of work here.
Yeah, that guy you just saw kept trying to talk to me while I was recording. He said, "You're obviously not a good salesperson if you want to interrupt somebody." Subways, interesting way to travel. I did take one subway trip while I was there. So our next stop is going to be here in Central Park. If you know anything about New York, you've heard about Central Park. Very big park here in the Center Park. And it was specifically designed to be here. They did a lot of construction work here, demolishing rocks and carving a landscape picture, as it were, in the landscape itself. It is very large. You see a wide variety of changes as the seasons come and go. And just an interesting spot, another interesting spot out there. Now, this is me in the rocks, among the rocks in Central Park, and there were glaciers here. Last time was about 20,000 years ago. At one point or another, the glaciers were almost 2,000 feet thick in this part of town. So now we're going to look at views from three tall buildings, the Empire State Building, top of the rock, and the original World Trade Center. So let's start off over at the Empire State Building. This is the lobby as you come in, very ornate, Art Deco-ish, as it started in around 29 or so. There you go. The 86th floor is where the observatory is on the building. And you're looking off toward the south. That's Brooklyn over toward the left. That's the new World Trade Center in the center, and that's New Jersey over on the right-hand side of the building. And now looking again over to Brooklyn, again a little bit closer, you can see the Manhattan and the Brooklyn Bridge there. And looking toward the south, and again over to toward, I should say, New Jersey. And there's the Statue of Liberty off in the distance. Pardon my voice here, I've got a bit of a cold. Now the top of the rock in Rockefeller Center. Now it's about 200 feet lower than the Empire State Building. It's on the 67th. New York State Building's on the 86th. What's cool in the elevator is that it's a clear ceiling, and you can see as you go up. It's sort of scary for some folks. All right, here you are looking out from the bottom of the three decks, looking toward the Central Park area. And they have little spaces in between the glass, so you can get your camera in there if you've got a narrow camera to take some pictures. Travels with Phil continues. Now, this is the upper deck of the three decks. This is the upper deck at the top of the rock, or Rockefeller Center. This is 50 rock, not 30 rock. All right. The nice thing about this, while it is not quite as high as the Empire State Building, 200 feet, like 60 some odd stories. You get the entire panorama from up here without having to walk around the building. So literally, this is the top of the building. That's New Jersey on the right side of the water. And I'll show you the ball for New Year's Eve here. That would be over Times Square. There you go. That's how far away we are. Hopefully that's in focus. I can't tell. That would be Times Square. And now the original World Trade Center, one of the two very large square buildings. And this was the higher of all the three observation areas. And this was the indoor observatory center, deck if you want to call it that. And you're looking over toward New Jersey at that angle. And eventually, in a few seconds here over to your left, you'll see the other tower of the two towers. They are obviously not there now, but this is the very, very top of the building now. This is, I believe, 100, well, I can't remember how many stories high it is. I want to say 102, but I'm not sure. But it was a tremendous view, according to folks who were up there. And you can see a long distance in all directions. So you can still take, I believe, take a observation deck tour on the new World Trade Center. The new World Trade Center is the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, 1,776 feet high, 1776. Took a while to build. Travels with Phil. I'm on, I'm by Albany Street and Liberty Way. And there is the World Trade Center. Another big building right beside it. It's a nice little walkway here. Bicycle way, walkway, coming straight from the Battery down toward the World Trade Center. Very impressive building. I think its actual designation is One World Trade Center. They're building several more buildings that are not completed. The entire reconstruction has not been finished. And then the area where the memorial is for 9/11 is very moving. You see the two different waterfall areas for the footprints of the two original towers. The museum is very, very moving as well inside. And speaking of moving, let's move over to the Statue of Liberty, off on its own little island. Used to be called Bledsoe's Island. Now it's called Liberty Island. And this is a flyover. It used to be an old fort down there. You can see the star shape of the fort, so they have overlapping fields of fire. And this is a look from the top coming all the way down, but you can go inside if you get early reservations to take the tour inside. It's here. So let's take a look inside the Statue of Liberty. Now this is inside the museum, which is in the pedestal. This is the original torch. That's, you can see now, that's how it was able to act as a light for a lighthouse. Now it's covered in gold leaf. This is the steps you go up on the inside. There is an elevator in certain spots, but the last bunch you have to take a spiral staircase to get up to the top. And while it's not terribly strenuous, it's not an easy task either, especially if you're not in good shape. Or if you're a little wide, like I am. All right, this is the crown. 25 windows. You can see the part of the New York skyline. You can see out toward the south. You cannot, you might be able to see a little bit of New Jersey on the left. I'm not sure there.
With Phil continues downtown at Wall and Broad Street. Yes, Wall Street. This is Federal Hall right here. The guy you see standing up there pointing or saying stay away. It's George Washington. And on this side at Federal Hall, we unzoom so it's not so bouncy. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington took the oath as the first president of the United States of America. And that building right there, it's now a federal monument or park, whatever you want to call it, national park. And opens up at 9 o'clock. It's not quite 9 o'clock, so I'll be checking that out. That's Trinity Church right there, right up there. And the cornerstone of capitalism, the New York Stock Exchange, right there on the corner. Now, a long time ago, the Dutch here built a wall to protect them from attacks from the local indigenous folks and other folks that weren't so indigenous. And the wall went quite a distance and eventually became called Wall Street. And so that's where we are, downtown New York City, in the center of the financial district.
And you'll see street musicians everywhere, but the
Apollo Theater in Harlem.
The folks who don't sing and perform on the street.
Evidently having a gig. Oh, there's Carnegie Hall. I wanted to come over here to take the tour, so I asked somebody, what were the best directions to get here? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the guy said, practice. All right, Carnegie Hall.
And there it is again.
This is the place called the Dakota. A lot of famous people have lived here, including John Lennon. And in fact, right there is where he was shot. That's why there's other people out here pointing at stuff. But lots of buildings out here on this stretch, just off of Central Park. This is called Central Park West. You can see all the people there walking by from Central Park. But again, this is the Dakota. Lots and lots of famous people have been here. When it was first built, they were the people in uptown New York, or downtown, I guess I should say, were talking to the guy who built it and says, this is so far out, it might as well be in the Dakotas. So he started calling it that just as sort of, okay, fine, I'll take what you called it and throw it back in your face. And that's how it sort of got the nickname of being called the Dakotas.
All right, let's move over to the Museum of Modern Art, or MoMA.
Starry Night by Vincent Van Gogh. Van Gogh.
Not really that big. And Marilyn Monroe by Andy Warhol, Monet. And the Tikis from Easter Islands. And that's the New York Public Library, the Flatiron Building, the first skyscraper. That's some guy standing out in the middle of the road. Skyline is very, very nice. Some of my panoramas. And again, there is a Wall Street. There's a Broad Street and Broadway. That was the building front for the Men in Black. That was Madison Square Garden. Metropolitan Opera. Marriott back in Times Square. The Broadway District. Warwick. Trump Tower. And another one of the museums. So, as I've said several times here, I think New York can be a very pretty place. And if you look at it overall, lots of lights, lots of colors, lots of interesting, lots and lots of variety. And we'll just say A fond farewell and good night to New York City. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up by clicking on the button below. You're welcome to leave comments below as long as the language is family friendly. And finally, if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button over on the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you again for watching.